Our recent foray into When Elegies Are Ashes, which I will refer to as Elegies, it got me thinking. An easy thing to take for granted in Arknights is vision. Thanks to the Magitech empowering us to be omniscient commanders, Arknights doctors are able to enjoy perfect vision of the battlefield and expected attack ranges at all times by default, informing their strategies and deployments accordingly. Over the years, there have been multiple attempts to mess with this. Near Light is the first, camouflaging enemies outside of a crude light and dark mechanic that prevents deployment on darker tiles. Deploying an operator would light up the tile in front of them, expanding to a 3x3 area once on the battlefield for the few seconds. Now their attack range isn't reduced, mind you. If someone or something does a little spotting for their squad mate, even Besieger snipers and Deadeyes can find their long-range targets too. It's worth noting that the enemies are still identifiable in the darkness as well. Just because they're camouflaged doesn't mean we don't know what they are. And, of course, the Knight's Mora enemies add one extra layer of complications to this by forcing you to watch your collective backs for darkened tiles. The other time Arknights messed with vision before Elegies was in my home turf, Reclamation Algorithm. Here, enemies are unidentifiable and untargetable in the fog of war. To reveal them, the attack ranges of your operators are used. You'd have to make use of operators with extended or large ranges to establish map control, and most fast redeploying operators made for pretty myopic scouts. Eventually though, you'd be able to grab upgrades to basic vision upon deployment in the tech tree, and you can even build constructs that granted map-wide vision that got rid of the problem entirely. But that's only if you were willing to foot the bill and put in the grind for that privilege. And now we come to Elegies. This time around, we get a neat purple overlay showing the combined attack ranges of all the operators on the field, representing our effective vision coverage in these stages. We do get perfect knowledge of what's on the map, but the twist this time around is that enemies are stronger outside of our vision range, incentivizing good map control in order to avoid overwhelming your medics. Also standing in your way are the thickets growing on certain maps, obscuring the longer attack ranges and vision of operators that normally have the means of seeing beyond it. So how do we conquer the tiles of the unseen? Turns out there's some pretty interesting quirks to take note of while navigating these reconnaissance obstacles. First off, the attack ranges for the purposes of anything besides auto-attack targeting still apply past the thicket barriers. This is most notable with tactician vanguards being able to place their summons within their normal attack range, even if the tile is blocked off by a thicket. I'm not sure this will make a difference with most strategies, but there's probably at least one niche knight player out there rejoicing that they can place down fodder in the right spot due to this revelation. Second, thickets do obscure targeting for certain global range abilities. This includes the obvious candidates like Golden Glow and Eyjafjalla the Vit Aska, both of which you should be extra careful with since they reduce their attack range to practically zero while their global skill is active. Ask me how I know. But even stuff like allied buffs can be affected as evidenced by Entelechia's skill too. Notice how it picks a visible ground unit from Entelechia's position, ignoring the last deployed unit on the other side of the thicket. When deploying onto an unobscured tile, the expected behavior is restored. Third, there are certain forced area of effect attacks that can bypass the thicket concealment when targeted correctly. The ones that I've been a fan of so far include the alchemical devices of Thorns the Lodestar and Tin Man, as well as the artillery bombardment of Fiametta's S3. Now that's all fine and well, but what if we need to get vision in places we can't otherwise reach safely so that enemies we can't kill outright stay suppressed? We can actually take a page out of the playbook that works well in RA. All types of summons and deployables tend to have ranges associated with them that grant vision in both Elegies and Reclamation Algorithm. For example, Silence's drones, Scotty's Seaborn, and even Dorothy's Skill 3 traps get their area of effects counted for the purposes of vision, revealing the tiles around them, or in that extended plus pattern in Dorothy's case. These are nice and all, but the first two expire after a while, and the last one needs to be replaced whenever an enemy steps on the trap. What if we need more permanent coverage for some important locations? There are only two operators that can get the job done right here: Stainless and Wolfenite. Let's go to EA-6 for a rundown of both of them while we trust farm. While messing around with this setup, I made a discovery about Stainless turrets. I already knew that these turrets granted vision, just like they do in RA. They're a versatile tool, only leaving the battlefield once it's out of ammo or when you retreat them. But as it turns out, these turrets do not have their attack ranges obscured by the thickets, and they seem to be the only summon or deployable that can do this, at least by my testing. If I had to wager a guess, it's probably due to the fact that it's coded like an enemy to enable defensive recovery from allied attacks. Regardless, this means that we can deploy a stainless turret against the Fey creature on the left side here to suppress it. We then have another Artificer supporter bash on it so that it fires through the thicket to take out the Fey without getting retaliated. Once that's done, the short cooldown between turrets should be completed so that we can reposition it to face north, covering the staircase. Note that while any operator can attack the turret to charge it for firing, Artificers can gradually refill the ammo with their attacks, allowing it to potentially remain there indefinitely while still firing on enemies. Meanwhile, Wolfenite is the latest Trapmaster specialist added to the game during this event, and she's easily the highlight of this update for me. We deployed her first due to her cheap cost to suppress the bird's nest on the right, and we'll be running her skill 2 for this one. It's not because of the defense shred, but I will admit it could help the stainless turret volleys pack an extra punch in other situations. Instead, we're focused on the bonus attack range that these traps get on skill 2. It's a small plus pattern, allowing it to grant vision on the tiles adjacent to it. You might be thinking, why wouldn't we just use Dorothy instead or something? Well, here's the kicker. These traps are manually detonated, meaning we can keep them there indefinitely. You do still need to wait for the enemies to clear off the tile when deploying, but once it's there, it can stay there for the rest of the map if you need it to. Here's a good example of a use case on the other side of EA-6. This tile in the corner is surrounded by thickets to the north and west. Enemies that pass by here are unblockable ranged arts damage units, and they spend just enough time on the stair tile to auto-attack before descending if outside of vision range. This means, ideally, we cover the staircase tile and the low ground tile. You could throw a melee unit down, and that would work, but if they accidentally take some range damage, most forms of healing won't be able to reach them. Instead, I use a Wolfenite trap here to maintain permanent vision of the tile and staircase. It's much cheaper in terms of DP versus a typical melee unit, which makes it a simple yet elegant solution to the problem at hand. In fact, if I can find a way to shoehorn Wolfenite's traps into my AFK solution for the future Annihilation stage that will be based off of Elegies, I'm definitely going to do so. This might not be game-changing in the vast majority of cases outside of this environment, but I still find her pretty neat regardless. When using her for vision in RA, it's like having a set of permanent low-ground only glow sticks at your disposal. It's a much cheaper spotting solution that can help other operators find their targets, without having to increase your micromanagement load. And if you do decide to use her traps offensively, the utility of stuns or defense shred pairs great with the ability to benefit from Hunter Bomb thanks to her Sargonian faction alignment. Use skill 1 to stun prey that's running by for easy damage, or weaken rocks and other hard targets using skill 2 to enhance a teammate's burst physical damage. I'm not even being original here, their use cases are literally written out in the skill names. I could go on about gameplay potential, and sure, there are definitely better picks if you're not forcing creativity like I am here, but I'll leave it at that for now. Wolfenite and the stages of Elegies have left a lasting impression on me, and I hope we find more neat and interesting interactions off the beaten path like this one. And besides her gameplay usage here, I gotta shout out some bonus points for Wolfenite having a very compelling operator file to read up on, by the way. The parallels between being infected on the intercity net and being a person with disabilities on the internet is quite stark, I must say. It's moments like these that make me appreciate that Rhodes Island is the type of company that attracts and retains talent like this to bring out their full potential, gameplay or otherwise.